Welcome, and thanks for joining us again today for this new webinar hosted by NextDent and 3D Systems. We are very excited today to release the newest update to our 3D printing software, 3D Sprint version 2.13. When you launch your 3D Sprint software today, you will be prompted to download and install the update. After that update, you will also receive a notification to download the latest material database. This material update patch contains the Model 2.0 gray and peach build style for stacked printing. This immediately showcases a new feature for the new 3D Sprint release, the automatic push notifications when there are new material database patches available. For example, new build styles and/or new support styles. During this webinar, we will show you the most important new functions that are applicable for our NextDent 5100 users. We will cover some software functions, build and support style changes, and of course the new main features of this release. All these developed specially for our customers to improve the daily workflows and increase production on your NextDent 5100. The presenter today is Adrienne Slevin. She is Application Engineer and Area Sales Manager for North America, and she will demonstrate the 3D Sprint version 2.13 update. Like always, I encourage you to use the Q&A function of this webinar to post any questions that come up during the presentations. And of course, we will make the webinar available on our YouTube channel and social media shortly after. So I'm gonna switch the screen now to Adrienne so that she can explain you all the new features of 3D Sprint. Adrienne, the floor is yours. If you unmute. There you go.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to go ahead and show you just a few things on the basic part of the program before we bring in our new parts and build styles. As Stein mentioned earlier, the automatic material updates will happen right when you connect to your printer. So when you click the printer button, you will select the printer that you're going to send to, and immediately after that, they will inform you that there's an update. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start with the new surgical guide update. So I'm going to go ahead and select my surgical guide and hit set. And I'm going to show you some of the new support tips. The way it works now is so much more convenient for removal on the sleeve areas. And so the seating is much easier to, no more adjusting basically. So on this main screen here, before I bring everything in, I want to show you some of the hotkeys that you may see me use today. And now we have a nice easy access shortcut for those hotkeys. What I like to do is print these out so you have it right next to your computer and you don't have to go back to it. You can see we've added quite a few, and some of my favorite ones I will be using. Also down at the bottom, you don't even have to turn on the view anymore. You can just use Alt 1, 2, 3, and 4. And those are the main ones that you'll probably use to switch views on your Sprint. So we're going to use File Import or Control I. We're going to start with our surgical guide. Now I'm going to bring in a quadrant and an upper, a full upper. So this way you can see exactly how you're going to orient them. So we will, I like to use the orient function, but you can also use the transform function. So I use my Q button, which is my hotkey. And again, you can find that in your hotkey list. And if you go into transform, because maybe that you prefer not to use the hotkeys, you can see that we've actually added some new features into it. So one of them is the dynamic collision check. So if you bring the parts and they're actually touching each other, you're going to see that they're going to turn red. So if they're red, that means they are touching. Also, when you move things around sometimes in 3D space, you'll pull them further away from the build platform, and perhaps you want to keep them at that 3 mm. So you can check the fixed minimum Z axis. We've just added that as well. So when you move things around, you won't move them up away from the build platform. Sometimes when you've already added your supports, for example, the new fine tip support that we have, to find that you can just hit the, you can also choose those thick ones that we did have originally, but we've really decreased that size here. So let's hit create supports and I'll show you the difference. And here shortly, Stein's going to show you a close-up of this. So you can see that now you can actually add and have very minimal scarring. So again, like I've shown you in the previous webinars, I like to make sure that I have one in each quadrant of anything that's a horizontal flat spot. And this way it'll come out nice and flat and the sleeves will sit right down on there. But now with these new support tips, they'll wipe right off and they won't hold up that sleeve at all. So one of the last functions that I wanted to show you in Transform is that even if you want to move these around a little bit, you can actually keep your supports now. It used to be where you had to regenerate your supports. So that's the new build style, or that's the new support style and how to change that over. Now you still can keep using the thick one. If you do, you may have more adjustments to make. So I would encourage you to start transferring over to that fine tip support. And I'm going to show you, I actually printed both. And so I'm going to turn off this and you'll just focus on my camera now. Okay, perfect. So here, guys, I've just finished printing this one. And you can see that, again, we can still just pull off these parts, okay? So you're going to see that when you pull off the supports, let me see if I can get you a little bit closer here. Can you see a clear view of this, Stein?
Looks good. Yep, looks good.
All right, perfect. So when you pull these off, you can see that they will pull right off without any recontouring. Now the thing about it is, I want you to know that one of the tips I like to tell people is also to make sure you do this right away. You don't leave it sitting out in ambient light. I was sure to cover this with a napkin because I had a couple things to print for you today. Things will begin curing. So remove them from that build platform, rub off the supports. So this way they don't keep curing, okay? So even if you put them in alcohol with the full supports, they will begin curing and you will experience more scarring, okay? And one more thing is after you clean those, and they're ready to go into the cure oven, you can go ahead and put your sleeves in prior to putting them into the cure oven. I don't have the sleeves for this particular case, but if you put them in, you'll get a nice secure fit with those sleeves, same with your lab analogs. And this is what it'll look like when it comes out. It makes that amber color, which you already know. We're here to learn about Sprint, but I wanted to make sure you know these few different things as well in case you're new here. And this is after sterilization. Okay, Stein, go ahead.
Very good. So I'm gonna put a slide on the screen now, and you will see on your left side, it is the old support style. It is still there if you really want to use it, or maybe in some odd cases that you will have to have a more heavy support style. But you can see that the support leaves a lot more scarring. On the right side, you can see the new support style. So this is just break off by hand and nothing more to it. So it's very easy to get rid of this last support scarring that is still there, and you will have a lot less defects on your part. So that is an amazing improvement if you ask me. And of course, we have much more to come. So Adrienne, over to you.
Okay, perfect. So the next thing I'm going to show you guys is the cast build style that we just introduced. And I think you're really going to love this. So the first thing that you're going to do again is just change your material, and you will see your cast build style already in here. It should have come with the update. Okay. So all you have to do here. Yep.
I was on mute, sorry. Yeah, yeah, it's right there in the print mode. Yeah, it's included in the update.
So you're going to have a 30 and a 50, and I'm just going to go ahead with a 30 because you guys are used to seeing that. And I'm going to show you the difference between 30 and 50 here in the build times. Now we've done a ton of testing, and we've found that you don't have to worry about losing accuracy with your RPDs, with your pressable crowns, anything like that, your cast crowns. I encourage you to give it a try. So we're going to pull in those RPDs that we have here. Okay, and I'm just going to flip these guys over. And again, I like to use my Q hotkey. And you can use your auto place to get them into the build area. And I also printed these so you could see these fine supports that we have. And you can see that I turned on my dynamic collision so you can see that they're touching and generate my supports. Okay, so let's take a look here at the estimate. And this is what you guys are all used to utilizing. Okay, so we have a 46-minute build here. Now, if I change my build style, which we would change it over to 50, and I'm just going to do it right from here. And now I re-estimate to 21. That's over 50% faster. So you're going to be amazed, and it does not actually decrease the quality whatsoever. So let me show you how easy it is now with these fine tip supports on a 50-micron build, how to remove those supports or remove these parts from the build platform. Okay, so if you can see, can you see the cast partials on my build platform here?
We can see them.
Perfect. So you can use either the punch tool if you'd like. And even though these are such fragile parts, you actually can just use your finger or your thumb and just pull these right off of that build platform without any risk. As long as you're gentle about it, then you don't actually have to punch them. And I prefer to do it this way. And I actually am removing all of the supports as we go. And you can see that it just comes right off. With these fine tips, it leaves literally no scarring whatsoever. This is one of my favorite things. So Stein is going to show you up close the detail between the 50 and the 30, and you can see that it doesn't affect that detail that you get on the palatal.
Yeah, so here on the screen, you can see on your left side the 30-micron build style that we have been using for a long time, of course. And on the right side, the 50-micron new build style. So up close with this magnification, yes, you could say you could see a little bit more layering, let's say, or a little bit bigger layers. But in the final result, or just for naked eye, the part itself, it really is no different. There is really no different in part quality, fit, or detail. So yeah, with that time improvement in the build time, I would say this is really amazing. So I'm going to give the screen back to you, Adrienne.
Okay, and now we're going to go into our denture workflow. So we've added the support bar feature, which is not only used for dentures, but it's also used for your orthodontic models or perhaps your bite splints, whatever you want to add that extra stability to. Let's go in and change it to Denture 3D Plus. And regardless of the shade here, we'll just use our translucent pink. And I don't know if you've all noticed, but it's come into my build platform quite nicely. And I think that I did forget to show you one thing in your new preferences. So let me grab that real quick and show you. In your preferences now, you actually have extended preferences that you might like to have. So if you always need to prepare something because you use a different type of CAD program that doesn't put out a watertight build, you can always start in your prepare. You can always start in your print, or if maybe you're just using your computer as a Q computer, you can use that as Q as well. That's good for management that's watching what's going on with their printers. In general, I have autoplace on load. I really like this new function that they do, especially with models. It'll rotate Z-axis, it'll max it out, and so you can see that my dentures came right on. You can also do mesh repair on load. So if you're using a CAD program that's not optimized for 3D printing, you can have it automatically repair and run minimum quality check when creating the build file. Some people may wish to have this on. So that means every time you add to the queue, it will go through and make sure that this is a printable file. And I keep mine off, but it really depends on your preferences, what type of builds you're doing. And obviously we're going to do auto, that'll read the millimeters. So if you want to change those preferences, go up into your preferences tab, this little gear here. Okay, so back into create bars. So what we're going to do with our dentures is we're going to do some extra support for stability and for accuracy purposes. Now, if you've seen the last few webinars that we've done, I've shown you how to make a 60-degree angle here. This will make the mucosa and the tooth pockets equally as accurate. Sometimes when you don't do that, you may get some suction happening here. And so we've changed our build style to encourage you to do it this way. And now we're going to hit create bars. Now everyone will have create bars. As of today, you saw that you have a new update. You can use it on anything, okay? And so what we're going to do here is we're going to add a few bars for extra stability on all of our parts. And if you want to work on one part at a time, just hit the little eye and that will actually turn off the visibility so you can work on one part at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and put a support bar here. Now, every time you add a support bar, hit apply, and that will apply it. And now you can actually add support bars to each other. Keep in mind that if you have somebody that's doing specifically RPDs, they can actually make sprues and they can make all different types of things. You can change the width and cross section of these things and the tips. I think that the way that we have these right now, general, are great. I've been using them on all different types of parts, and some of them you can actually just pull off. They're really not big on those tips. Okay, so we're going to put one here between the first and second, or the second bicuspid and first molar. And then we will apply that as well. Now, this is just an idea to make your parts more stable. So if you are doing, especially like on implant-based or something like that, and you want to have that extra stability, you can do this. Mind you, what we've been doing up till now and what you've been doing is working really well. So, okay, so now we're going to add another bar here. And this one's going to be attached to here, to this guy, and then hit apply, and same with this. And you're going to start at your base. Okay, and again, you can do this to add that extra stability as well. This will be the most accurate denture I've ever seen. And also with the lower. Alrighty, and now we're going to do our smart support, and we don't need to combine these. You guys know already that if we're not overlapping each other, we don't need to combine the parts and make one support for all of them.
Yes, Adrienne, and while we're looking at the support generation, I also want to add that currently there is a new support style in the make, also slightly improving the stability of the build. This didn't completely make this update yet, but it will be made available through these automatic database patches soon. So we're talking about 1 to 2 weeks from now. And this support will slightly increase the number of anchor points, but mainly there is a change in the trusses. That means the connections in between these support pillars is a little bit more stable, so they provide a slightly better pillar.
And you've probably noticed sometimes that when you add some supports that they may disappear. You don't see them on the UI. We've improved that function, by the way, that visual function. Now, one more thing, since I'm in here nesting, something that you perhaps may label is you can actually, we've added one more thing, and that is in your engraving function. So if you go and you type in Slevin or whatever you're going to type in, for the patient name, and this is obviously on anything. Let's say that you want to have a fixed font size. You can just change your font size here and it'll keep it fixed. This is the new function in engraving. Okay. Okay, perfect. So now I'm not going to show you, oh well, Stein, do you have the slide about finishing off these bars by any chance?
So earlier today, we did another webinar, and where we were also having Lars at NextDent doing live finishing of these dentures. So I have a short clip from that. And here you can see that Lars has a printed denture with these support bars. The teeth arch, so the MFH printed tooth arch is already in place, bonded with the Denture 3D Plus materials. And there you can see these support bars now with the small tips at the connecting areas and a little bit bigger in the middle. So you just use your hard carbide tool and very easily just at two sides cut them off. So it's very easy and quick to do that. Now, what you will see if you still have that, if you remove the bars, you will still see a little bit of the scarring of that part, which is then also very easy to remove with that tool. Just remove it, feel with your finger that it's gone. You don't want to grind away too much, of course, but it's a very easy procedure to get rid of this. After that, there is actually not a lot of work on these dentures to get rid of, for example, the rest of the supports. They just break right off. There is very minimal support scarring or material left. So once that is finished, what you actually can do, you can of course finish it up with some glazing material, or like in this case, this is just directly polished, maybe with a little bit of rubber, and then go to the polish wheel. And then this is the result that you will end up with.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and cover stacking now. All of our favorite. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do now, again, if you want to do the stacking with peach or with gray, make sure that you do that material update when it prompts you, when you connect to your printer. I've already done mine, so it's not going to prompt me. And then you'll have to restart your 3D Sprint, okay, for any of that to take effect. So we're going to use my tooth maker. And if you've been beta testing it, you've probably been using white. So we can use peach today to make it fun. So select model 2.0. Stacking will not work on any of your other materials right now. So this is specifically for full arch cases, orthodontic preferably. Okay, and then you can use gray, peach, or white now. And you'll just hit next, and you'll do ortho stacked. Now, never mind these two other build styles. You'll have ortho stacked, orthodontic, prosthodontic, or premium build styles. So we're going to go with ortho stacked. Okay, so let's do our file import. And we'll pull in our stack here. Now, a couple of different things here is that you want to follow certain rules for now. If you're using a milling fixture, that is not supported yet, but we will be working on that. If you are using, if you have an arch that is just a half arch, like maybe like an N shape, it's missing the last 4 or 5 teeth and you've trimmed it, that also is something that we will consider working on as well, if that's a common thing. These are more or less for orthodontic procedures. So there might be a couple of different things. Now, make sure that if you're using a software that we haven't quite tested or something like that, or you have any feedback at all, please feel free to reach out to us. We're always open to hearing that. So the next thing that you're going to do is hit Stack Arches, and you're going to hit Apply. It works with hollow or solid. It's going to hollow out your models, and it's going to put a lattice structure. And that's going to maintain the stability and the accuracy all the way up to the highest extent of the Z-axis. There's no supporting that you need to do manually at all. And the better your computer is, the faster this will go. So you can tell I'm just using my administrative computer.
While we're waiting for the calculation to be finished, there is one question that came in, a smart question. Why do you use different shrink compensation for X and Y axes? So all our materials, they have, of course, the scaling factor that you can see on the screen also. And the question is, why is that different for X and Y? I have an idea, but Adrienne, can you say something smart about that?
Well, are we talking about this down here? Go ahead.
Yeah. So these scaling values, they are of course hard coded for all the materials, but can be optimized if you use that scaling and offset algorithm that you have to print these test blocks. So they come from measuring test parts all over the build platform, and they compensate for the material shrinkage, but also there is a factor for the light source and for the DLP chip in there. So yeah, as far as I know, the difference between the X and the Y axis is due to the fact that we also have different amount of pixels in the X and the Y axis. And since this is a percentage, this is recalculated to that. So that's the smarter answer that I can come up with. I was hoping you could add something to it. If not, we can always find out a more solid answer later on.
Yeah, and just keep in mind that I am slicing for a specific projector on my printer, so it may be slightly different because I've run my printer came in calibrated for that specific projector. So I am always slicing for that printer.
Exactly. Well, this is also something very interesting. But another question came up. Can you touch base again on hollow versus solid for stacking?
Sure. So if you run the stacking algorithm, it's actually going to hollow them all out, and it's going to put a lattice in there for stability. It's also going to fill the tooth cavity. Now, you can change these slightly if you need to, but we've run a lot of testing with thermoforming, different thermoforming machines, different thermoforming foils, and we found that this is a nice stable measurement that we've come up with here. So you shouldn't have any breaking models. You shouldn't have any collapsing of your teeth at all because we've filled those teeth in. And even some people will use this for perio and things like that. So if you need to grind on your teeth at all, we've filled those in. So this is kind of like a one size fits all as best as possible. Yes. Also, when you're going up to this max Z axis, you really need some extra stability. And that's why we've chosen the support style we have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to make sure everybody understands that your import models, so the input models, can be hollow or can be solid. So the algorithm will deal with both kind of models. They just have to be models, watertight, so no scans, and preferably have a flat base. That is.
Yeah. There's also, if you're not content with doing a hollow model, you can always use the orthodontic build style and just not run the stacking algorithm. You can certainly run solid models, and it's still going to be 30 minutes for a full layer, one level. So you're not forced to utilize this for solid. You don't have to do hollow models. So now I'm going to show you what this looks like when it comes out of the printer, because some people get a little nervous about seeing these lingual supports. So I'm just going to show you how to post-process this. I'm going to show you what happens and that these leave no scarring, which is really great if you remove them at the right time. So I'm going to bring this back over to my workstation and show you a build that I just finished a little while ago. And by the way, for a quick estimate of this, you're always looking at around 2 hours. This one, I think, was 1 hour and 50 minutes. And also, after I'm done showing you the post-processing part, Stein will show you some of the measurements that you can change. You can actually bring these closer together. You can reduce that time and fit more on the platform, as well as do a couple of modifications to this actual style. So I'm going to bring you over and just show you the post-processing part of it.
All right, Adrienne, you can just take your laptop. We will get you over to live, and I will show those different parameters after you show the post-processing.
Did I, can you see my camera and everything the way it was? I hit a button when I was carrying you around.
You're still good.
All right. Okay, so here I have a build I just did. And I actually took one of these stacks off. If you plan to use these little feet here at the bottom, and in fact, let me show you what I just cured. You can actually cure these standing straight up in the cure oven. Okay, and so it has little feet on the bottom here. So if you're going to utilize this full stack at the end and you're not going to break them apart during your cleaning process, then you're going to use your little punch tool and you're going to punch from the bottom. Okay, and so I just kind of lay it down and I just punch from the bottom. No pressure. Being under the eye here. Oh, you're seeing my back? Okay, here we go. Okay, so you're just going to punch those out. And that's the first thing that you're going to do. And then when you're doing this, just make sure that you pull off the lingual supports as well. I'm just going to leave these here right now. And I always pull these off right when I'm done pulling them off of the build platform. I want to take these off right away because I don't want them to begin curing or anything like that in my alcohol bath. I just don't want them exposed to much light. Anything that's like real light or translucent, I find that I get much better results if I just wipe them right off, and there's no scarring at all here. Okay, so you can put these in your, if you see, like me, I'm in my home office right now, so my ultrasonic isn't huge, so I'm just going to use these 1,000 milliliter beakers. And again, just pull off those lingual supports, and you can fit most of your stacks in. And then halfway through, you're going to go ahead and put them in for 3 minutes. Halfway through, I like to flip mine, or maybe even go sideways a little bit. In fact, I have a Tupperware that I can put in. You probably have a bigger ultrasonic at your lab, and so you'll be able to use a much larger container. For me, it's just a little bit more difficult here at this place. So after you do this, the 3 minutes and then the 2 minutes, and again, I also have a container that's really nice to use for these. You're going to flip them the opposite direction because you want all of the material to come out of the cavities, okay? So you can do your 3 minutes, and then flip all of the arches, 2 minutes in your ultrasonic, okay? And then make sure they dry completely before you put them in your cure oven. If you do not let them dry completely, the alcohol will boil into your model, into the pores, and then it'll cause it potentially to break when you're doing your thermoforming. So it's really important for any resin material at all, no matter what you're using, to make sure that's fully evaporated, or else you'll have problems with strength and stability later on. Okay, so now you can go ahead and you can break these off before or after you put them in the cure oven. I choose to do mine after because then it's a nice clean break. And you can take out the lattice. I find that it looks nice and it looks fine, but these just snap right off. You can see there's no scarring from my supports. And you can just pop these little guys right off on the sides because they're all perforated, basically. You actually use less material than you would if you're doing this in single level with all the other supports. You have less support material altogether and you have a faster build. Okay, so now you're ready to go in and do your thermoforming. If you don't like your lattice, you can also take that off as well. No need to take off the underside of the lattice at all. I like to leave that lattice. It's nice looking. It doesn't affect anything during my thermoforming process. And you definitely want to leave that in there because that will add the stability during that process. You can thermoform multiple times. So this is a real nice stable way to go ahead and do that. And if you want to pop off those feet, we've got everything perforated for you, okay? All right, Stein.
Good, then I will take everybody through a few of the options. So if you open the stack functionality in the software, Adrienne, I'm gonna mute you for a second. If you open that function, there are a lot of preferences and parameters that you can change, and one of those is the arch spacing. So what you can see on your left side is the default setting. So there is only I think 1 millimeter in between the arches, the vertical stacking. So if you change that for some reason, you will see on the right side that this influences, of course, how far these models are away from each other vertically, but also will reduce the number of models that you can put into the stack. So you can play a little bit with these with this setting, but I think we optimized this quite good. A second parameter that I want to highlight is then the stack spacing, and this is pretty clear. This is the space in between the vertical stacks. So this is also minimized to just leave enough space in between that they don't glue together, of course. But you can also increase that space. These two functions and most of these parameters, they are actually already there for in the future when we will implement other applications for stacking where this might be more convenient. And for the models, we just want to put in as many as possible. Then one important parameter is the point influence radius. This is set to 3 millimeter. We did a lot of testing on a lot of models, but of course we cannot cover them all. We don't know the different tooth positions for all upcoming patients, of course. And this has an influence on the anterior supports that you can see on the screen. Sometimes if a tooth is inclined, let's say lingually or to the palatal region, we need a support to be able to print that tooth correctly. So this radius, this point influence radius parameter actually influences how much supports that you're gonna get there. You can change this from 1 to 6, and our default is 3, so you can go either way slightly. And you can see on your left side, this is when the parameter was set on 1 for this particular model, and then on your right side when the parameter was set to 6 for that model. So of course, if we need support, we cannot magically start printing from nothing. For some tooth positions and inclinations, we do need to start off with a support, but of course you can try to minimize that as much as possible. So those were the most important parameters. There are a few more. Of course, with the hollowing, you can change the wall thickness, the wall thickness of the model. So if you really want more stability on your models, you can make them slightly thicker wall thickness. And also for the scaffolding, this is the lattice structure that you see at the bottom of these parts. There are a few parameters that you can change, play around with. So. Yes, Adrienne, I think this concludes the majority of what we wanted to point out. Is there anything more that you want to add to it?
That if you are a reseller or a trainer, or even if you just want to learn more about what we've released, there's a lot of other functionality that's in this. Please read that changelog every time you get an update. You'll be amazed at all of the work we've put into all of these new functions. There's plenty more. These are just more popular ones that you will use. But there's some real cool ones in your splitting function and other things. So please explore. That's it. Thank you for joining me, by the way.
I would like to thank you, Adrienne, for this good explanation and preparation for this webinar. Any more questions that come in later, of course, you can always reach us through our usual channels. Thank you very much. I hope to see you later. Bye.